Okay, everyone, let's begin. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Zakrya Rana. I am a prevention consultant with NJ4S Union County Hub, and today we'll be discussing Are You Okay Day? Essentially, we're going to have a conversation about having an important conversation, one that could change a life. Now, before we begin, the fine print portion of today comes with a disclaimer. The topic of today's discussion may be triggering for some. It is humbly requested we all consider our own and one another's emotional well-being during today's session. An overview of today's session. To begin with, we're going to delve into an understanding of what suicide is itself, with pop culture and social media at the forefront of blending our socio-cultural understanding of all topics mental health together. It can get increasingly easy to forget like the diagnostic statistical manual version of things. So again, the primary aim of today is to leave better equipped with the power of starting that life-saving convo. So New Jersey Statewide Student Support Services, or NJ4S, is our team of experts working together using evidence-based approaches for tackling the ongoing mental health crisis faced by the youth. We do this through placing an emphasis on prevention and intervention. Now, the landscape as it were. In 2022, 49,449 people died by suicide in the United States. That is about one person every 11 minutes. 65 million people are aged 10 to 24 years old. For every 100,000 in that age group, 18 will die by suicide. That's a broadly encompassing metric. That's broadly encompassing by virtue. It can be a little confusing, but that's because suicide is complex and the progression of suicide is complex. So a metric as this begs the question, who does this affect? And relative to you and me, who does this affect? Simply put, the answer is anyone and everyone. For a moment, if we all reflect on the past decade, for example, and just ask ourselves, any celebrity instances of suicide you could recall, just within the past decade. Take a moment, think about that. It's pretty obvious my example is Robin Williams. Robin Williams' suicide was something that came on everyone's radar out of nowhere, and I didn't know Robin Williams personally, and I didn't really have much of a sentimental attachment to him, but his action of suicide, his of ending his life, was something that came to the forefront of everyone's radar. So suicide did affect us in some way. What is suicide? To define it, it's the act of intentionally killing oneself, a fatal act of violence towards oneself with the intent to die. This often results from feelings of hopelessness, pain, and despair. And while suicide is a behavior, mental illness such as depression or anxiety are medical conditions, which can affect how one may think, feel, and or behave, but not everyone with mental illness attempts or will attempt suicide, and that's crucial to understand. In short, suicide can be understood as an action or event, while mental illness is a health condition that can sometimes lead to those thoughts or actions if not treated. Suicidal thoughts, also known as suicidal ideation, are thoughts, ideas, or considerations about ending one's own life. These thoughts can be passive reflections, such as wishing one were dead, to more active, detailed plans of carrying out suicide. Suicidal thoughts are often linked to a desire to escape difficult situations, but they don't always lead to actions or attempts. These thoughts are a serious sign that someone may need support or intervention. In the context of suicide, a causal factor would be something that leads directly to suicidal behavior. Though establishing a single cause is often difficult because suicide progression is complex. Suicide progression has a complex nature. For example, like severe untreated depression can be seen as a causal factor in suicide because it often leads to feelings of hopelessness and despair, which can cause someone to consider suicide. A list of some of the causal factors of suicide: mental illness, trauma, life stressors, physical illness, abuse, existential crises. And as the previous slide described, this list is non-exhaustive. It's not truly reflective of the entire scope of causal factors of suicide. However, a list such as this gives us a good idea of what can play a role in causing suicide, which thereby empowers us to recognize these signs in those around us, but also within ourselves. Now, risk factors for suicide make suicide more likely to occur, but won't directly cause it. We have to differentiate risk factors and causal factors, and there's a reason for that. An example, a family history of suicide is a risk factor, but because it can increase the chances someone may consider or attempt suicide, but it doesn't directly cause someone to take their own life. It may inspire thoughts of it. It may put someone in a place where they're familiar with the concept and idea of taking one's life. And so that serves as a risk factor. And actually, this is known as suicide contagion, which is this phenomenon when in a close-knit community, an individual may end their life, and that inspires others within the community to also follow through in that step. It's as if you could say that a door has been opened to that reality. And within that contagion, it's referred to as suicide contagion with that close community. Another risk factor is social isolation, substance use, previous suicide attempts. As mentioned earlier, when someone has attempted previously, that won't cause another attempt, but they are at risk of attempting again because they have done it before. They are familiar with the path and the mindset and place that they're in when they go there, basically. And impulsivity. Impulsivity is interesting because an individual with a toxic or pathological impulsive nature will be likely to act on a impulse of suicide, especially when it's combined with all the other factors of mental illness and the environment around them. And let's say a crisis occurred, they lost a job, whatever. Everything combined with impulsivity makes it a lot more risk. The risk of suicide, of the person attempting suicide, more likely when they are impulsive by nature.
There's something we need to talk about. It's happening in Australia and will impact many of us. Suicide. An average of 8 people die by suicide every day in Australia alone. For every death, it's estimated 30 people will attempt to take their life, and 89% of people report knowing someone who has attempted it. So why is this happening? Research shows that when these 3 factors combine, it increases someone's risk of suicide. 1. Feeling isolated or disconnected from others. 2. The belief that they are a burden on others or society. And 3. Having the means to take their life. Are You OK is working to ensure everyone feels connected and is protected from suicide. We focus on reducing feelings of isolation and disconnection. But how do we do this? We all experience life's ups and downs and things like grief, relationship breakdown, financial difficulty, or losing a job. These moments can really challenge us. And sadly, many people feel they don't have anyone to confide in, but there is something that can help. You. Are You OK's impact is helping you make a difference to the people who are struggling with life. We do this by encouraging you to invest more time in the people around you, because when our relationships are strong, we're more likely to see those signs that someone's struggling. And when you see those signs, notice changes, or just feel that something's not quite right with your friend, colleague, loved one, teammate, or neighbor, we want you to trust that gut instinct. Reach out to them and ask, "Are you okay?" You don't have to wait until they're in crisis. The earlier you reach out, the better the result. We know it can sometimes feel uncomfortable, especially if the person answers, "No, I'm not okay." And that's okay. But you can make a difference if you follow Are You OK's 4 conversation steps. 1. Ask, are you okay? 2. Listen. 3. Encourage action. And 4. Check in. By making time to look out for those around you, you can help people feel connected and help them access appropriate support long before they think about suicide. If we all meaningfully connect with those who may be struggling with life, we can increase people's sense of belonging and create a world where we're all connected and are protected from suicide. Ask, are you okay? And start a conversation that could change a life.
And so, in order to initiate that conversation, we must be well versed with the apparent warning signs. Warning signs are specific behaviors or signals that suggest someone is at risk, immediate risk rather, of attempting suicide. They are often observable and indicate a heightened risk of suicidal action. Here are some examples. We have social isolation, for instance, when one begins to withdraw from their friends and family. They're avoiding social activities, spending unusual amounts of time alone. And this social isolation presents itself in an abrupt or prolonged manner. It's not characteristic. Generally, a lot of these warning signs will have the same theme of being very uncharacteristic of the individual in question. Another example, another warning sign, severely disrupted sleep or disturbed sleep, we could say even. Examples include significant changes, whether that is extreme insomnia, if a person is spending days awake at a time out of nowhere. If they are oversleeping, sleeping 16 plus hours a day, these are out of nowhere, random, giant changes to a sleep schedule can be indicative of someone nearing consideration of an attempt of taking their own life. Nightmares can be very triggering to the point where they can put an individual in the place of being contemplating taking their own life. Expressing hopelessness, verbally expressing hopelessness is a very big warning sign for suicidal behavior. Verbally expressing hopelessness, examples including, I have no reason to live, things will never get better, it's going to be like this forever. These are very direct and clear-cut proclamations of ideating suicide. Behavioral changes, sudden changes in behavior, increased irritability and agitation, reckless behavior out of nowhere, mood swings from depressed to euphoric, elated and down. It goes both ways. Personality changes, essentially uncharacteristic behavior changes in an individual that normally would not act that way. And on that same token, there's the idea of sudden calmness, when a person who may have been very distraught in any type of way, whether they were anxious or depressed, but they were distraught, and all of a sudden a calmness comes over them. A sudden sense of relief takes over their body. And that's actually a big warning sign, because that can indicate that they have come to terms and accepted their intended decision of ending their life. So they are deriving happiness from being in terms with the decision that they are wanting to make. Loss of interest, when someone suddenly loses interest in their favorite activities or hobbies, someone has a hard time finding pleasure in once enjoyable experiences. This is very clear. If someone loves football, they love watching football, and then all of a sudden Sunday game day or whatever, game night, and they're just in their room, they're not, it's a clear sign that something's up. Giving away possessions. This one's actually indicative of a lot more than just suicidal behavior, because manic individuals, for instance, will have high spending habits. They will like to let go of large amounts of money, make giant purchases, give large tips when they are in a state of mania. And this can also be indicative of someone nearing a suicide attempt, because when a person is giving away their most valued items, making arrangements to give their possessions away, saying goodbyes to people, it's all ways to tie up loose ends. Expressing suicidal ideation can be a warning sign, but it's crucial for us to learn how to recognize passive versus active, direct versus indirect, and the various means through which these ideations may be expressed. Verbalization, social media, careless remark at work, whatever it may be. So, this upcoming Thursday, September 12th, 2 days from now, is an actual day known as Are You OK Day. Here's what you need to know about the National Day of Action. Are You OK was founded by the late Gavin Larkin after he lost his father Barry to suicide. He believed that a conversation could change a life and that everyone has a role to play in supporting the people in their world. I agree with that. I think even when you, personally at a workplace or even like, let's say a club, like a jiu-jitsu club that I'm part of, for instance, I believe that holds true, that everyone does have a role to support the people in that world that they are a part of, to some degree at least. What started as a National Day of Action has become a year-round conversation movement, with people across Australia organizing Are You OK activities and, most importantly, starting meaningful conversations 365 days a year. It's not about Are You OK Day this Thursday. It's about creating that conversation, beginning that conversation, being adept at having that conversation. When people are regularly asked, Are you okay? They're more likely to feel grateful, heard, supported, connected, better able to manage, understood, relieved. These findings are through Are You OK metrics, which are conducted through the surveys that they disseminate themselves. Preventative steps for suicide involve a combination of individual, community, and societal efforts aimed at reducing risk factors and promoting protective factors. This is basically a checklist that we can use within this effort. Step 1, promote and enhance mental health awareness, educate communities about mental health, reduce stigma, and encourage open conversations about mental health issues, including suicide. Mental health services, including counseling, therapy, and psychiatric care. Step 2, identify and address risk factors, recognize and address common risk factors for suicide, such as mental health illness, substance abuse, trauma, all the things we mentioned. Seeking crisis intervention services. Step 3, you want to establish crisis hotlines, text lines, and online chat services staffed by trained professionals to provide immediate support and intervention to individuals in crises. And the idea is that these you should know about the hotlines. Does anyone offhand know that 988 is the suicide hotline number, should anyone ever need to call in a time of crisis? Restrict access to lethal means. Step 4. That's pretty straightforward. But you have to understand that when you restrict access to lethal means, that there's a large breadth of things that could be included within lethal means, a lot of which would be untraditional and unconventional. Promote life skills and resilience. Step 5. Provide opportunities to individuals to develop life skills, coping strategies, resilience through education, mentoring, and support programs. Step 6. Encourage individuals to seek help for mental health concerns and suicidal thoughts by reducing barriers to care, promoting awareness of available resources, and fostering a supportive environment. For someone you may know, we want to be in a position where we talk to them and actively listen, where we are present for them, where we lead with empathy, ask them about suicide, be okay with having a conversation about that topic, that concept. If there is an immediate danger, remove the dangerous items from the room, seek professional help. You want to follow up. Finally, you want to develop a crisis plan. This is a bit of a, I guess, quick and dirty checklist to have when someone is around you that you may be experiencing warning signs. A crisis plan this is an example of a crisis plan, a step-by-step, methodical, written out plan of what to do in a crisis. Everyone can make their own unique plan and keep it privately and have it to consult when needed. And that's the thing about the crisis plan, is you really like can't plan for a crisis. You don't know when you will need that crisis plan. Crises by nature are supposed to be unexpected. And so you'll never have a proper crisis plan ready to go, but you do need something there to guide you when you fall into that place. How to help yourself. Simple things. Do not isolate yourself. Try to find some friends. Try to stay away from toxic people and abusers. Make a list of accomplishments. Practice positive affirmations. Say things to yourself like, I am worthy and deserve a happy life. I am resilient and have the ability to bounce back from setbacks. Find professional help and do not lose hope. Apologize, I had to stop it there. There was something at the end that shouldn't be seen. Resources, and basically that video was something that I was shown in my senior year of high school, and about 6 or 7 days or something after she had posted this video and it had gone viral, she had completed her attempt of suicide on her own life. She had taken her own life. Her name is Amanda Todd. She was in high school, probably 15 or 16 years old. And it left us feeling like there was something that we could have done in situations like that around us. And so it comes back to this idea of having that conversation, creating that conversation, having a door open to having that conversation with those around you. Now, as mentioned earlier, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, these are resources everyone should be familiar with. The Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, this is actually very useful. I've actually used it personally to talk, and it helped me a lot during that time in my life. They pointed me to a direction to get the help that I did need. And so it's a good resource to have, even if someone is not suicidal or in that bad of a place, they can still turn to this hotline. Of course, if you have a serious emergency, you should call 911 right away. And then the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention for resources. Always try to seek therapy and connect with people you trust. But most of all, are you okay? This is actually, if you go to their Instagram, it's a very good resource. They have reels that are like 10, 15 seconds. Tips to like start that conversation with those around you. It's like having a app for mental health tips at your disposal within the frame of suicide. And so I think everyone should try and consult that if they ever need to.
Thank you so much, Zach, for that presentation. It was a very deep topic. So everyone, please do what you need after this presentation. Take care for yourselves after a heavy topic like this. Thank you again to Zach for sharing information on this very heavy yet crucial topic that is affecting many within our community. Would like to give feedback on Zach's presentation today, you can please use the link in the chat. We would greatly appreciate any feedback. All feedback is anonymous, and we'd greatly appreciate it in improving our presentations in the future. If you enjoyed this presentation and you want to keep up with NJ4S Union Hub, you can follow us on social media at NJ4S Union. And you can follow the Prevention Links page on YouTube for videos of these webinars. Please join us again next week as we continue our September suicide prevention webinar series for the month of September. And if anyone has any questions about our programming or is interested in this type of programming, you can reach out to us at NJ4SUnion@preventionlinks.org. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us today.